The Ancients World. Chapter 211, The New Zenith City 2. I weave through the clouds and enjoy the wind on my face. We've been flying for a few hours, and the scenery is starting to look familiar. We are getting close to Zenith. I look out ahead and see a giant city in the distance. The farmlands look healthier, and there looks to be constant construction going on. I'll bring us down. We'll walk the rest of the way. Once inside the city, we'll ask around if anyone knows where we can find Countess Amelia. Sally nods her head in agreement. I dive down and spread my wings as we get close to the ground, so we slow down. I gently land us, and I let Sally off. She slides her hood on, and I do the same. We'll be able to move around undetected. I toggle my wings off and turn towards the city in the distance. I can see it through the cracks in the forest. We had to land in a place with cover. It's early afternoon, and we still have time to find my mom. It's weird to say that when I have another one from Earth. Do you think it'll be hard to find her? From what you've told me, she isn't going to act like nobility. It's safe to assume she isn't going to be hanging out in those crowds. If anything, she'll be helping all the people that were like her. Sally makes a great observation and deduction. Amelia is going to act like that. She doesn't want to mingle among nobles, and she certainly wants to help all the people that are just like her. I'm like that as well. I'd rather spend my time doing something good and productive than sit around with snobs. We start our walk towards the main road so we can just follow it to the city. Zenith has changed a lot since the last time I was here. Jackson has done a wonderful job making this place thrive again. The ability to lead and make smart decisions is a hard one to find. Do you think we'll meet the king? 'Cause I still want to try on that dress you bought for me in Belvia. I've never gotten a chance to wear such a wonderful piece of clothing. I chuckle and remember the day that I bought the dress for her. A nice beautiful red dress that goes up to her knees and opens up her back. I remember that horrible butler trying to intimidate me out of the shop while the Duke's daughters shopped. Talk about a place that lives up to its name. I look at her, and even though I can't see her face and she can't see mine, I can tell how eager she is, and I'm not going to deny something like this. She deserves to have a chance to wear a beautiful dress. Even if that means we have to go somewhere that requires the need to. I'm not wearing a suit, though, never. Yeah, Sally. I'm sure there will be times in Zenith you'll get a chance to wear a dress. I'll make sure we'll go to at least one so you can. I'd love to see you in the one you picked out. It works wonderfully with your complexion and long golden hair. It absolutely makes her glow, in my mind, at least. When I imagine her in a dress like that, it's amazing. She is absolutely amazing as it is, and I'm sure she'll make men regret their decisions and make women jealous. I hold out my hand so she can grab it. I'm learning more and more about being a partner with Sally. At first, I didn't think showing affection is necessary. I learned that I actually want to do it because it makes Sally happy. It makes her smile and blush, things that I really love about her. I feel her fingers interlock with mine. I see her playing with her hair with her other hand. I love you, Sally. Remember that. I see the bottom half of her face that isn't covered, and it blushes. She tries to say something, but nothing comes out. I really caught her off guard with that, and that's good. I turn my attention in front of us, and I see the road time to follow it to Zenith. We walk on the dirt road for a while and notice that most of the traveling being done by others is merchants. I do see the occasional player here and there. The average level is rising, it seems. I'm nearly level 200, so they'll have a long road ahead of them before they catch up with me. Most players have probably been helping in the war and getting better EXP and rewards. In the end, it's going to be more beneficial to fight in the war for the majority of players. They get access to high-level monsters and a ready supply of missions, making it very convenient for them. It's going to work out for everyone in the end. I look ahead and see people coming and going from the entrance. It looks like they aren't checking identities here. That must be Jackson's doing. It's nice to see that he isn't letting others control his kingdom, and I'm proud Amelia is a part of it. Sally and I make it to the city's entrance and see that there are a lot more people coming and going than there ever was last time. Zenith has become a focal point of trade and commerce. We'll get something to eat before we do anything. We won't remove our hoods until we are in a private setting. I don't want to risk being found out. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people out there that know what I look like now. Even though Zenith is a part of the coalition, there are still people that work for the church here looking for me. I'd like to have an actual steak that's cooked right. You are really good at hunting, but you can't cook or clean an animal for the life of you. I must agree with Sally. I don't have a cooking class or a single skill to help with that. I'm an offensive and defensive force of nature, but when it comes to life skills, I don't have a single thing. I look around as we slowly walk down the commercial district. Zenith can hold millions of people, so there are lots of players here right now. I can smell some delicious food coming from an indoor and outdoor restaurant. It wasn't here the last time I was in town. I look at Sally and tilt my head at the establishment. She nods with enthusiasm, and we make our way to it. We enter the restaurant, and that's when I see that it's owned by players. There are player cooks and customers too. There are also the native people of Gaia enjoying the food too. I walk up to the counter and notice how cheap all the food is. I look at the cashier, and it's definitely a player. Once that has a quality of life class, I bet. A person with a combat class wouldn't be working behind a counter. I see there are selling hamburgers and fries. Just like from Earth, my stomach grumbles at the thought of a hamburger and fries. The cashier is waiting for us to order. I'll take a double hamburger and a side of large fries. I look at Sally, and she nods her head, wanting the same thing. Make that 2 orders. The cashier writes down on a piece of paper and sends it into the back. I pay the price for the meal, and a waitress comes and takes us to our table and leaves a number at our table. It's going to be a few minutes, but that'll make the meal so much better. Sally staring at all the other players in the restaurant and looking at the food. There are foods here that aren't normally made in Gaia. So in truth, a piece of human culture is now a part of Gaia. I've never seen any of this food before, and all the people that are cooking are new people like you, Zirn. I smile in slight pride. If there are things we Earthlings know how to do, it's how to ruin a planet and make delicious unhealthy foods. We have had a serious obesity problem for the last 300 years, and that is at the fault of unregulated serving and calorie sizes. It's food that only us new people know how to make, Sally. These are dishes from our culture, and they'll be some of the best food you'll ever eat. I can see how hungry she is. She is rubbing her stomach every few seconds. After a minute or so our food arrives and it's good and hot. Chapter 212, A Social Event. I stare at the food that is so familiar to me, food from Earth. I pick it up, and the juice leaks out from the other side and onto the plate. I bring it up to my mouth and take a huge bite. A blast of familiar flavor hits my tongue, and I close my eyes as I chew. It's been so long since I had a meal of this quality. I open my eyes and look at the masterpiece that I'm holding in my hands. I look across from me, and I see Sally experiencing something similar. She looks to be enjoying it just as much, if not more. I move my hand and take a fingerful of fries and notice it's salted to perfection. I bring them up to my mouth, and it's the same texture and deliciousness as it always has. I swallow the fries and bring the hamburger back up to my mouth. All the wonderful things that are happening in my mouth right now, none of them compare to the food I've had since being stuck here. This restaurant is player-owned for sure. The food wouldn't be this good otherwise. Tisism Shamgod. Sally tries to talk as she eats, but all that comes out are messed up words. What she meant to say is this is so good. I nod my head in agreement, and I never take my eyes off the hamburger in my hands. I take another huge bite and slowly chew. I'm sure that the quality of this food will put the natives of Gaia out of business. There were millions in the serving industry, and those can be used here if you have the right class and skills. I lean my elbows on the table so I can relax as I eat. We both eat in silence and enjoy the amazing food. There shouldn't be any words said during a great meal cause everyone is focusing on the food. After a few minutes of going between the fries and hamburger, we both finish our food, and I lean back and release a sigh of content. I haven't had a meal that good in ages. I've been traveling around everywhere all the time that I figured I'd never get a chance to have a meal like this again. I slowly speak as my body processes the food. I run my hands through my hair and look towards the ceiling. As amazing as that was, we still have some things to do. The first is asking around to get the location of Amelia. The second is doing so without revealing my identity to anyone in the process. I stand up and leave a gold tip on the table. I look at Sally, and she slowly stands up. We make our way out of the restaurant and start walking the streets of Zenith. I know Amelia. She is a kind-hearted person who would try and help as many as possible with her new wealth and title. Did you get to eat like that all the time where you're from? If you did, I'm going to demand that you take me more places your fellow new people own. I'm drawn out of my planning at Sally's question. I personally didn't eat like that all the time, but humanity had created some of the best food ever. While extremely unhealthy, it's still something everyone indulges themselves in. I don't mind eating all this food now. I'm on the move constantly and have long bouts of high activity. Sally wanting to eat the food from Earth isn't a problem to me. What I'm concerned about is how much we'll have to stop and eat if this is the case. Yes, Sally. I could have eaten like that every single day if I wanted to. The origin of us new people had many things your world will probably never see. All of that's gone now, and what we have are the very little remains of our history being served. I won't say no to eating at these places frequently, but they'll be pushed to the side if we are on an important mission. I watch Sally's eyes light up. It's funny they say to get to a man's heart is through his stomach. The same can be said about a woman too. It is one of the basic things we do. We eat, sleep, shit, and reproduce. Every single creature does this. We walk in silence, and Sally follows my lead. Amelia would be in the poorer districts the most, helping in any way she can. We are heading for the poorer districts. Once we're there, we'll ask around and see if anything comes up. There might be people who want to cause us trouble, so you get ready for that. She nods her head, and we slowly walk the path. After about 25 minutes of walking, we start to enter a place that would be called a poorer district. There are countless people in rags and without shoes. Every time we pass an alley, some homeless person sleeps in it, sometimes more than one. It's also getting later and later in the evening too. It's not dark yet, but it's getting close. The people are very wary of us. They know that we are outsiders here. A poor community is a very tight group because they have to rely on each other for safety. I hear a bunch of noise coming from up the street, and that's when I see an inn. It's kind of run down, but there is a party nonetheless. Asking people questions is hard, but not if they are drunk. Let's go. We'll ask around in there. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of inebriated people that can answer anything we ask. We both walk up to the inn and slowly enter. There are cheers and shouts and a circle in the center of the inn. It must be some sort of brawl people are betting on. I look around and see some perfect targets. I walk up to the counter and sit next to a guy slowly leaning side to side. I take a breath and turn to him. My hood covers my face, so I don't have to worry about that. Do you know where I can find a Countess Amelia? After a couple of seconds, the man doesn't respond, and I take a breath to try again, but before I can, he falls over. He hits the ground hard and looks to be passed out. This might not be as easy as I thought it'd be. I look around the bar some more, and I don't find any isolated targets, only small or big groups of drunks. I don't want to use force, and that'll only cause problems. So I have to take my time and be methodical about this. I stand up from the chair by the counter and walk over to the dwarves by the barrel. Dwarves are not common, which means they are here for diplomatic purposes. They have met with nobility and know some names. They might have the answers I'm looking for. I stand in front of the barrel as they continue to fill their mugs and chug them. Do any of you happen to know a Countess Amelia? The oldest of the dwarves looks at me with a mug in hand and rosy cheeks. He runs his hand through his beard, and they huddle up away from me. I can't understand what they are saying because they are speaking in their native language. Look, I'm in a hurry here. If you don't want to tell me anything, just say so. The oldest of the dwarves looks back at me and sets his mug on the counter next to him. He releases a roar and balls up his fist. I'm surprised enough not to do anything. He throws a punch at my stomach with all his might, and it connects. I hear the bones in his hands crunch. My stats are astronomical compared to his. It'd be like him punching tungsten steel. He howls in pain and rolls around on the ground as his fellow dwarves laugh at his misery. They quiet down, and the second oldest stands in front of me. Yet, she is located on a property north of the city, about a mile. I finally get the answer I need, and I turn around. I look for Sally, and I see her standing on top of a table to see the fight going on. I wave at her, and she hops off. We both head towards the exit and leave. It looks like we are heading north of the city. As a countess, she probably has a massive property. Chapter 213, A Social Event 2. We stand outside the inn and notice the setting sun. I know that Amelia wouldn't mind at all that I show up this late, but I'm sure the guards and staff would mind a lot. A stranger to them showing up so late in the evening wouldn't be nice. Add that to me demanding I see her, and I've got a nice shitstorm brewing. We'll stay at a nicer inn tonight, and once sun rises, we'll head to her property outside the city. I saw some pretty good places back in the commercial district. We start our trek back the way we came and slowly make our way through the city as night falls. Street lights begin to turn on, definitely using magic to do so. The roads and paths are slowly filling with people looking to go and have a night on the town. Capital cities like Zenith are never quiet, and that's why the richest and, more important, nobles have properties outside the city. I'm glad I don't have to worry about pickpockets since everything is in my inventory. I'd love to see someone try and steal the witness. That'd be a funny sight, in my opinion. After about 20 minutes of walking, we make it to the inn, and it's definitely high quality. I hold the door open for Sally, and I follow her in. I look around the inn, and it's lively, but not like the one in the poor district. Stay close to me. The better the establishment, the better the criminals. She nods her head, and we walk up to the counter. The bartender looks me up and down and scoff, probably thinking we can't afford anything here. I take out 3 gold pieces, and I see him raise his eyebrow ever so slightly. I want a room. He looks over my shoulder and sees Sally. Both our faces are covered, but that doesn't stop the creepy grin on his face from showing. He tosses me a key and gives me directions to the room. I take Sally's hand, and we head for the room. I use the key to open the door, and once inside, I lock it behind us. I unequip my hood and release a sigh. I'm so sick of these twisted people. The next time it happens, I'm just going to kill them all. I say that in a slow chuckle. Sally removes her hood as well and relaxes on the bed. I make my way towards the bed and lay beside her. It's a little small for my size, but I can make it work. Sally slings an arm over and across my chest as she lays on her stomach and looks at me. I've been thinking about the first thing we need to do once we are done here in Zenith that grabs my full attention as I quickly turn towards her. We'll need to head to the barony of James in the kingdom of Pleer. It was the first place I was held once I was made into an illegal slave. Once she says that, I get a notification from the system. It's definitely for the quest, but I won't look right now. Sally just shared something very personal with me, and it'd be incredibly rude if I didn't give her my full attention. I nod my head for her to continue talking about her life. I want to know everything about her. The worst and best times in her life are included in that. She makes circles with her finger on my chest, and I can see the echoes of pain in her eyes. I was so little then I had just barely learned how to walk in the illegal slave market. The younger, the better that way. Brainwashing is more effective. I got lucky since I was brighter than the rest my age. I place my hand on top of hers in a show of support. I'd hug her if I didn't think that would make her really uncomfortable while remembering those times, but I'm not 100% sure about this. I could be hurting her by not hugging her. I decide to make it easy for both of us. I open my arms and tilt my head in a manner asking if she wants a hug. She scoots closer and curls up in my chest. I wrap my arms around her and give her a gentle squeeze. I don't think she will talk anymore, so now is the perfect time to look at the quest. Sally's past. Description: help Sally in her quest for vengeance against all the men that tortured and sexually assaulted her growing up. Help her punish the Elven Kingdom for their ways. Objective 1: when the time comes, Sally will ask you for your direct help in this matter. Completed. Objective 2: once everything is done with your quest involving the Dryads, ask Sally what the first step in her revenge is. Completed. Objective 3: head to the barony of James in the Kingdom of Pleer in progress. Rewards: unknown. Difficulty: legendary. Note: the great difficulty of this quest is the goals that Sally has set in revenge. If they weren't so great, then the difficulty wouldn't be so high. A new objective has been added now that number 2 has been completed. I send it away with a thought and focus back on the situation. Nothing has transpired in my quick look. I've never been to the Kingdom of Pleer. It's one of the more infamous places for nobles to meet and discuss things over wine. The barony of James is unfamiliar to me, though. I'll be following your lead, Sally. Remember, if you need to lean on me for anything, you go right ahead. As I've gone over this before, this is going to be a difficult quest for Sally. She is basically returning to her torturers to exact revenge. It's hard seeing the face of someone who caused so much pain. I know that once she gets the bloodlust going, she'll slaughter them. She is a good person and has found it hard to kill people. Once she gets a taste of hurting and killing the ones that made her life worse than hell, I don't think she'll have a hard time killing people who aren't good. I appreciate the gesture, Zirn. Never in my life did I ever think I was going back there. Destiny has a funny way of playing tricks on you, doesn't it? Tell me about it. My whole being here and the way I am now. It's like a perfectly orchestrated plan. A puppet that is in a tangle of strings from another's commands. I don't like being someone's or something's puppet. If I don't like what I'm going through right now, I couldn't imagine what Sally has gone through. All I can do is be here when she needs me for any of the horrible memories that might resurface from this. I yawn in genuine tiredness, and my yawn infects Sally, causing her to yawn. Let's get some sleep, okay? We'll have a big day tomorrow. I want to get more than 6 hours of sleep tonight. She snuggles her head into my chest, and I stop hugging her and let her use me as a pillow. I think about all the things that's happened so far in this journey. Ever since the day I met Sally, everything has been so much better. I would claim and promise to always remain a solo player. One that only does things alone, but now I can't imagine my adventures without Sally. I wonder if this is what I missed out on, a real relationship. The ones I had in my old future were based on lies and deceit. This one isn't. It's based on trust and care. I slowly drift into sleep and have nice dreams of my childhood. Long before the life I have now. I miss my family. I can't lie about that. Knowing that they are safe and have the means to protect themselves really puts my mind at ease. After a while of the dreams, I feel a warm heat on my face. I open my eyes and notice the room filling with sunshine. I decide to sleep in a bit. Everyone needs a morning to sleep in once in a while. I feel Sally shift and get more comfortable next to me. She must have shifted off me during the night. She scoots back into my chest and grabs my arm. She brings it around and I'm now spooning her. I've never done this before, it's a really nice feeling. A closeness I've never shared with another, and I can see myself growing to like it. If we do it often enough. Chapter 214, A Social Event 3. I flutter my eyes open and bring my hands up to clean the gunk out of them. Sleeping in is something I don't do very often, but when I do, it's refreshing. I sit up as I move away from Sally, and I pop my back as I do. She is still sleeping, and it's probably only been an hour since I first woke up. I sit on the edge of the bed and run my hands through my hair. It's starting to get long. Almost long enough to put in a little ponytail or bun. I should get a haircut soon. It could end up getting in the way. I stand up and stretch out my legs. They also pop. I turn around and see Sally is still sleeping. She wouldn't like it if I just went downstairs without her. I walk over to her side of the bed, and I kneel in front of her side. I place my hand on her shoulder and lightly jiggle her. She shifts slightly and grumbles in protest. She opens one eye and looks at me. Time to get up. We've slept in long enough. She slowly leans up with annoyance all over her face. Some people just aren't for the morning. She sits on the edge of the bed, and I stand up. She runs her fingers in her hair and straightens it out. The property that Amelia owns isn't going to take that long to get to. You want to eat at that restaurant again? As those words leave my mouth, all signs of tiredness disappear. Good food can have that effect on people. I'll take your reaction as a sign that you are more than happy to leave now. She nods her head with excitement, and I turn to start walking towards the door. She gets up from the bed and follows me. We exit the room and head towards the main counter down the hall. The inn isn't as lively as it was last night. Most are still here are passed out from drinking so much last night. They say drinking until you black out is a sign of depression. If so, there are a lot of depressed people. What do they serve for breakfast? I take a small breath to answer, but before she can, she starts up again. Are they like pancakes, or is it more like a bacon and eggs breakfast? I'm sure they'll have both. I open my mouth to speak. She beats me to it yet again. Do you think there will be a long wait cause I don't want to stand there and wait while all the good food is being served? I give up on trying to explain anything. She'll find out the answers once we get there. We eventually make it to the restaurant and see there isn't much of a wait. Most people have probably already eaten breakfast. So that means the wait won't be that long. We enter the restaurant and head towards the counter. We see the breakfast menu above the cashier on the wall. There is so much food to eat. The most delicious foods are the ones you have after you get up. They'll be your source of energy for that day. The cashier looks at us with a notepad. Time to order. I'll have the bacon, pancakes, hash browns, and eggs. The portions here are huge, but I'm a tall guy with a huge appetite. I look at Sally and see she is still looking at the menu. She eventually picks and orders similar to me, with added bread. We are directed to our table, and they place a number on it. We sit in eager silence for our food, smelling the aroma coming from the grills in the back. After a few minutes of waiting, the food is brought out, and we dig in. We both zone into our food and savor the amazing breakfast. Their bacon and pancakes, add that to syrup, and it's heaven. I finished off with hash browns and eggs. We finish at nearly the same time, and I lean back in my chair and release a satisfied sigh. It gets better every time. I'm going to be sorely missing this food after we leave. Sally looks at me in disappointment. It's not like we can eat this stuff every day, and I know that my food is terrible. It's just the way it is, sadly it truly is sad. More than I ever thought it could regarding food. We stand up, and I leave a gold piece as a tip and pay for the meal at the counter. We exit the store, and we both turn our heads to the northern entrance. I can't believe I get to meet your mom. It's going to be interesting to hear what she's been through. After you entered my life, it changed drastically. I bet the same happened to her. Sally's words are scarily accurate. Amelia's life did change after I entered it. She is now a powerful noble and is living a life she probably doesn't want. Sally sees my disappointed look and places her hand on my arm. I'm sorry if I said something. I shake my head. It's not her fault. It's mine. Her life may be financially easier. That's not always better. Having money doesn't mean your life is good. Some people prefer the solitude and lack of money, and while Amelia needed money for the kids, I'm sure that if they weren't in her life, she'd never been the type to be desperate for money. People's financial situations can make them do things they wouldn't normally do. You didn't say anything wrong, Sally. I'm reflecting on my actions and how I've affected Amelia and her life. Many would claim it's millions of times better, but I don't know if she thinks that way. I don't know Amelia good enough to assume all this, but I feel that the only reason she accepted the position as countess here in Zenith was for all the little ones she looks after. A mother is willing to do anything for a child of hers. Absolutely anything. We slowly walk side by side to the northern entrance and eventually reach it. We have our hoods on, so no need to worry about people finding me out. Sally and Amelia will probably get along really great. They are alike in many ways. Kind-hearted, selfless, and many other things I could name. It'll be nice to see Amelia after so long. I haven't checked any of my personal mail at the churches. She is definitely wondering if I'm all right, and seeing me will lift her spirits some more than she'd get from reading a letter. After a few minutes of walking, we exit the city and head into the forest and out of sight. Flying there will probably be more efficient. I can find it faster from a bird's eye view. I get on one knee and activate my wings. Sally climbs on my back, and I launch off the ground. We reach the clouds, and I look north. We are going about 20 miles per hour right now. I can see a giant mansion not very far from here, and I notice some guards here and there. I slowly glide into a descent and make sure when I do, no guards can see me. I land gently in the garden on the property, away from any eyes. I let Sally off, and that's when I hear something hit the ground. I turn around and notice a little kid. She dropped an apple. She is staring at my wings and looks back to my hood face. I walk up to her and toggle my wings off, they disappear, and she slightly flinches. You mind taking me to Amelia? She slowly shakes her head, not minding taking me. I stand, and she grabs my hand. We start to run slowly, and Sally follows closely behind. We make it to a hedges maze, and that's when I'm glad that I ran into this little kid. She probably knows this place like the back of her hand. After making many twists and turns, we exit the hedge maze, and I see the giant mansion off in the distance. I turn my head and lock eyes with some guards. They quickly run over and draw their weapons. I let go of the little girl's hand, and I slowly push her out from between us. You are trespassing on a countess's property. You are under arrest. The squad captain points the tip of his blade at me. I don't want any unnecessary bloodshed. I take my hood off, and they don't react in the slightest. A second later, I hear the doors from the mansion up ahead crash open. I knew she'd be watching. Chapter 215, A Social Event 4. I watch a woman in an elegant-looking dress quickly run down the hill to us. I've never seen Amelia wear something so nice. She is almost to us, and that's when I see tears in her eyes. I sheath my sword and wait for her to reach me. She leaps the last little bit and latches onto me with her arms. I can't believe you're really here. Why didn't you respond to any of my letters? She pulls away and smacks the back of my head. It doesn't affect me. It might help her. The knights and guards look confused, and they sheath their swords as well. I don't really have an excuse for not checking any mail or letters from her. In truth, I was just so busy I didn't have time. I always planned to visit her in person, and now I've kept that promise to myself. Even though she isn't my birth mother, she still loves me. I'm her son to her, and that's why it's going to be weird if Amelia and Mom ever meet for real. I'm sorry for not responding to anything, Mom. As I say those words, the looks on the guards' faces turn to ones of dread. They have now found out they drew their weapons on the son of the countess. I've been really busy, and every time I was in a place that I could check, I'd forget to. I hope being here makes up for some of that. She nods her head and hugs me again. I should do the right thing, and I hug her back. After a few seconds, I have to peel her off me. As she cleans her eyes of tears, she sees the hooded Sally behind me. She can tell she's a girl because of her hair and feminine figure. She looks apprehensive, and steps away from me, and stands in front of Sally. Who is this young lady? I don't remember you mentioning any girl in your letters. I chuckle to myself. I motion for Sally to remove her hood, and she does. Her cute pointy ears and beautiful features are shown. An elf? I didn't think their race approved of any partnerships other than with each other. In fact, they are very strict about that. They have severe punishments for it. Amelia sure knows a lot about the elven race. Sally looks down in slight disappointment. Oh honey, I didn't mean any offense by it. I was just surprised. I want to thank you for taking care of my son. He loved to be alone. That worries a mom. Sally looks up with a small smile. Sally is actually 103 years old and has seen so much more than us. The men who captured and did everything to her are old men by now, but several potions for the rich keep them young. I know for a fact they are using these. The rich will never want to die. I'm Sally. It's really nice to meet you, Miss Zirn. Your son has helped me through so much and given me even more. You did an amazing job with him. Amelia has an echo of pain on her face. I never told Sally that we didn't know each other till the new people came to Gaia. She looks at me in confusion, and I give her a motion not to talk about that. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what your relationship was, so I just assumed. Amelia looks at me in slight anger. This one is on me. I place my hands on both their shoulders and try to bring them out of their current state. Let's go inside and talk more. I'd love to see how much Jackson has hooked you up with. Jackson wanted to make me a duke, and that's not something I was interested in. I foolishly told him if he wanted an in with me, he would make my mother's life so much easier, which he interpreted to make her a noble. I've never seen a mansion like this before. It probably gives all the room needed for the kids. My attempt to change the subject doesn't work all that well. Amelia rolls her eyes and starts to walk towards the mansion. It worked well enough. Sally follows at my side. We make it up to the door, and I look inside the immediate room. There are butlers and maids. There are also guards standing at the sides of every door. Being sentinels. Lady Zirn. Please don't run away like that. I was worried sick. The head maid speaks and rushes to check on Amelia. It's cool to see she has people that really care about her. The maid looks at Sally and me and has slight apprehension. Who are these two? I wasn't told we are hosting guests today. Amelia smiles and walks away from the maid, and stands next to me. The maid is looking very confused, and so is everyone else in the room. She must not have told them she has a real son. This is going to be an interesting conversation. I wonder if any will find out about me being the son of Michael. I smirk and decide to take the reins. I'm Slayer Zirn, Amelia Zirn's birth son. It's really nice to meet all of you. I watch the shock of all the people in the room. Many didn't know she has a son like me. I must say I'm grateful to all of you for taking care of my mom. Her life was so much harder than it is now. While I know, she doesn't like the noble life. It's great to see she is safe. Many quickly bow in a typical way when meeting nobility. Technically I am a noble since my mom is one now too. I don't relish that thought, but it's not like anyone can force me to be a noble. We all hear a couple of kids run into the room and make a ruckus, breaking the awkward silence. You can always count on kids to make a great distraction. I look at the kids running around and notice they are also more healthy looking now that they are in a better place. We are going to be in town for a couple of days, and I was wondering if you knew of any events that require formal dress clothes. Amelia looks at me in confusion and waiting for an explanation. I said I'd take Sally to a place where she can try on her red dress in public. She hasn't gotten a chance yet. Amelia looks at Sally, and they exchange looks that I can't deduce. Amelia waves Sally over, and they walk out of the room. I try and follow, but Amelia makes sure I don't. I sit on the couch instead and let them do whatever they want. While I'll go to an event with Sally, I'm not wearing a suit. I prefer to remain the way I am. I put my feet up and release a sigh of relaxation. I don't know when those two will be back, but taking a moment to myself seems like a good idea. I was never told by Lady Zirn she has a son. I hear the head maid speak to me. You look very familiar too. I've seen your face. I just can't quite I stand up and stare at her. Many in the room are intently listening. I could never imagine she kept such a secret to herself. No wonder the king gave her the countess position. It's because of you this woman is far smarter than I expected. Most people can't find me out based on my looks alone. They usually have to inspect me or see me fight with my wings or title on. You can be sure I won't say anything. She walks away and into another room. I'm getting strange looks from everywhere, and I grow frustrated. Everyone leave the room. I want it to myself. They all obey and leave. I sit back down on the couch and rub my temple. If the maid figured out who I am, then others in this mansion will also be able to. I head towards the door that Amelia and Sally left through, and I start to walk the halls of the mansion. After walking, I can hear two voices speaking to each other behind a cracked door. It's Amelia's and Sally's voices. I know it's incredibly rude to spy, but I want to know what they are talking about. I stand at the side of the door and listen carefully. I can barely make out what they are saying. Chapter 216, A Social Event V. I silently listen to the conversation happening between Amelia and Sally. I can tell by the way you look at him I'm not going to claim that I know you, and I'm not going to tell you that you aren't allowed to love him. I want to warn you, though. He is an angel, and he'll eventually unlock all the power that comes in his bloodline. He might not be here forever. Amelia is bringing up points I didn't. Not because I'm avoiding them, but because the end hasn't been decided yet. I want you to tell me how you came to love him, and it's real love. So don't leave out a single detail. If you do, I'll know. Leave it to a parent to dig into the partner you have brought home. I know Sally can handle this. She has nothing to be afraid of. I hear Sally take a small breath, and I hear a teacup land on a plate. I meet him the day he came into an inn I was working at. I remember that day. She left me with a great impression. I told him that he stunk and needed to take a bath. It was strange cause he laughed when I said that I didn't mean to say it. It just came out from the shock of the horrible smell. Normally, I'd have gotten in real trouble. Amelia chuckles as she talks about the first moments we met. I couldn't smell how bad it had gotten. I'd been fighting and traveling all the time. I hardly ever got a chance to clean up. Thinking back, I'm surprised more people didn't say anything. I'm sure that Haley smelled just as bad as I did. We traveled together, after all. There is silence between the two of them, and I'm getting a little worried. The morning before he left, he asked me if I wanted to come with him. I found it really strange, asking a complete stranger to go on an adventure with you. I can see why, and after learning about everything that's happened to her, I can say she is the strongest person I have ever met. At first, I thought he was joking, but then he told me to meet him at the entrance of the city. I don't know why, maybe it was his good nature, but I joined him that day. After we left the city is when he revealed to me who he really is. She would have found out eventually, and showing her saved so much time and explanation. She was much more understanding than I thought she'd be. Sally spends the next 45 minutes explaining our journey up to the point of here, and I heard Amelia sigh many times during the telling of the story. Sally left the night of our first time together, which is a smart move, in my opinion. I step away from the door and leave them to their own conversation. I know that they'll end up being very good friends. I walk around the mansion for a while, exploring the new home for the kids and Amelia. This place has everything needed to raise a bunch of orphans. They'll get the life that they deserve, and not many people can say they gave that to their kids. I see some big doors up ahead, and I walk through them. I enter a giant room and notice the extravagant things lining the walls and placed on the various tables. This must be Amelia's office. I walk to her desk and stare out the giant window. This must have been the place where she saw me lift my hood. She might have even seen me land but had to see my face before rushing out. I hear someone walk into the room with a cart. I turn around and see the head maid from earlier. She pours some tea and brings it to me. I take it and sip from the cup. How long do you plan to stay hidden from the world and running around in your own adventures? I don't know if you've noticed, but the world really needs you right now. She cuts right to the chase, doesn't she? I can respect that, and while I admire her resolve to question me, she'll think my reason selfish. However, I don't think she'll leave without it. I sip some more from the tea, and she is very patient. I place the teacup back on the cart and turn towards her. It's not my responsibility to save the world. Not my responsibility to fight the battles that humanity brings upon itself. I'm not a slave to the demands and needs of the populace. I'm free to do what I want, and if I don't want to fight your wars for you, then I won't. People think I'm a gift from the Almighty Father, that I'm here to save them. They are wrong. She looks more than a little shocked at my reasons. She trembles slightly and slams her fist on the metal cart. She takes deep breaths trying to suppress my rage. She must have lost someone from this war. Perhaps a husband or son, but I'll never know. She brings her hand back and slaps me across the face. It does nothing, of course. She sees my lack of a reaction and grows angrier. She throws many slaps that soon turn into punches. I can hear pops and cracks coming from her hands. Give me my baby back. You have to. She definitely lost a child in the war, probably drafted into it. Died on some front line and has been holding in pain all this time. I grab her wrists as gently as I can, trying not to harm her. She struggles for a second but realizes it's futile. If you did your job he would be alive. She collapses on the grow and buries her face in her mangled hands. I quickly activate my title and heal her. I deactivate it before she can look up. I see the tears streaming down her face. The life she has now is going to be empty for a long time without her son. I'll make you a promise. If there ever comes a time when humanity is going to lose this war, I'll step in and end the fight. Humanity's fate is in its own hands, and it always will be. What's happened to your son? It's not right. The fault doesn't start and end with me, and it's never going to change how you feel. The loss of a child is devastating to a parent. No matter how old or young the child is, it's never good to outlive a child. I help her stand up, and she quickly leaves the room. She is a heartbroken mother, and I see no reason to cause her trouble. No need to speak about this to anyone. I turn back towards the window, and I see the amazing view. As I look out the window, I hear voices approaching the room, and the door opens. I turn and see Amelia and Sally, along with Jackson. I see his shocked and surprised face. Amelia must not have told him I'm here. He quickly gets on his knees and bows his head all the way across the room. I sigh and shake my head. Amelia quickly fixes the situation and stands Jackson up. It never feels right for a king to bow to me, well, a good king, that is. It's good to see you too, Jackson. I see that Zenith has come a very long way under your rule. He calmly approaches and reaches his hand out. I grab it, and we shake hands. I didn't actually expect you to make my mother a noble, but it's a better life than what she had. Amelia looks at me with confusion at first. Then understanding. I chuckle as she places her hand on her temple to massages it. You should have come to me once you arrived in Zenith. I'd have loved to show you around the city and the changes that have been made. I'm getting married tomorrow, and I'd love it if you showed up. Before I can even reject the offer, Amelia barges into the conversation and accepts for me. I guess that means Sally has an event where she can wear the dress now. I sigh slightly and let Amelia do what she wants. Sally comes to stand at my side as the king and countess talk about the event. I'm sure that I'll be discovered once there, so I won't be going incognito. It'll be fun, seeing the people's reactions, nobles learning the connection between Amelia and me. Chapter 217, A Social Event 6. Sally stands next to me as Amelia and Jackson have their own conversation. Your mom is an amazing person. It makes me miss mine. I stretch my arm out, and I wrap my arm around her. When a person says something like that, they are looking for comfort. She leans in and stays quiet. I'd not mind taking a bath or shower. I'm sure that Amelia has a very nice one in this massive mansion. More than one, and probably has cleaning agents that work wonderfully. I walk up to Amelia and Jackson as they continue to talk. Amelia looks at me, waiting for any questions I have. I was hoping we could use any bathroom to get clean. It's been a very long time since either of us had a shower or bath. Amelia nods her head and asks one of the maids to come and show us where the bath is. We are led out of the room and taken to a new part of the mansion. The maid opens the door, and a massive bath with gold lining comes into view. The maid says her goodbyes and leaves us to our own devices. Sally looks at me with a slight blush. I don't have plans for anything physical. I head to the place where towels are placed, and I unequip my armor. I keep a towel around my waist, and I head to the faucet and turn it on, making the water warm. We should relax and get cleaned up, Sally. So don't have any of those thoughts in your head. I turn to her, and she is already undressed with a towel wrapped around her body. She turns her eyes to the side, avoiding eye contact. Even after all the skinship we've had, she is still embarrassed about certain things. I think it's cute. She is very modest, and I really like that about her. The massive tub fills, and I take off my towel and step in. That water is already very bubbly. It's more than likely due to magic. I lower my entire body in, and I feel every muscle in my body. Sally walks over, and I watch her remove her towel. She has a wonderful body. She has scars near her more private regions. She can't control that sort of thing, and I don't think any less of her because of it. Her long blonde hair is enrapturing. She covers her breasts and lower region with her arms. She slowly walks into the tub and sits across from me. She releases a deep sigh and lays her head back. Are you excited that you get to show off your beautiful red dress? I can already see you in it, stealing the party. I hope my presence doesn't ruin the wedding. I'd hate to steal the show from Jackson's bride. It's known that the wedding is mostly about the bride. She lifts her head and smiles at me. I see her for everything she is and not what's been done to her. She gains some confidence since her body is now covered. She shifts from her side of the tub and makes her way over to my side. She leans her body into mine and sits with me. I never thought I'd ever get to wear something so pretty. I even have a date to the wedding, don't I? She lifts her head and looks at me with her beautiful eyes. I nod my head and can't help feeling a little hypnotized. She has access to all my strings and knows exactly which ones to pull. She lays her head on my shoulder, and I feel her hand rest on my thigh. This will be the first wedding I'll ever attend. Are there things I should know? She asks me a question I don't know how to answer. I've never been to a wedding. The best advice I can give is don't cause too much of a scene and try not to take the spotlight from the couple. In which case, I've already severely failed in this endeavor. Let's just keep to ourselves and let the wedding play out. The truth about me will be known a little after the wedding starts, hopefully after the ceremony. I don't like the thought of stealing the limelight from Jackson and his bride. Sally nods her head in agreement, and while she will get to wear her red dress, it'll be important that she doesn't steal the limelight from the bride. I heard that no one is allowed to be prettier than the bride, but that's going to be impossible with Sally. She is so stunning and beautiful. She doesn't even wear makeup. Should we bring a wedding gift, cause it's really pretentious that saying just being there is a gift in itself. Sally brings up a great point. I have no idea what to give them as a gift. I think about it a little bit, and an idea pops into my head. I wonder if they would like a feather from my wings, just like the frost giants. In a sense, that's very pretentious too, but I don't know what to bring to a wedding. Sally's hand rubbed my thigh a little. I look at her, and she is leaning on me with her eyes closed. I decide to make nothing of it and relax. I'm jealous that Amelia gets to use this bath whenever she wants. After a couple of minutes, I feel Sally's toes start to mess with my toes. She giggles a little as we mess with each other. You know what you did to me in the tent, I never repaid you for that. She looks at me with a knowing smile. I'm not against it, but it could end up escalating. I don't want to go that far in Amelia's bathroom. I feel her hand move from its spot on my thigh and slowly make its way towards my rod. It hardens in anticipation and pops out of the water. I lay my head back as I feel her grip the base, not able to wrap her hand around it fully. Only do what you're comfortable with, Sally. All I say is this, and she shifts her body in front of mine and uses both her hands to slowly massage my rod. I feel her lips kiss the tip, and I release a small groan. She brings one of her hands to the tip as she kisses it and she squeezes it. My legs go a little stiff at that. She uses her mouth and envelopes the tip of my rod. I take a deep breath as she runs the tip of her tongue all over the place, making a crazy sensation dance through my body. I'm having a really hard time holding back. I tap her head multiple times to tell her, but she pushes her head further down and stops at the waterline. I groan as I shoot multiple shots down her throat. She moans slightly as I hear small gulps. I lift my head and open my eyes. I look down at her, and she looks up at me with a smile. She runs her tongue along the side and kisses it a couple of times. That was really hot, it felt like lava going down my throat, well, lava that burns good. I place my hand on the bridge of my nose as my head falls back again. I feel my heart racing, and I feel her crawl up my chest. She presses her perfect body against mine, and a shiver goes across my body. It's not like we are in a rush anywhere right now. I'm in the mood to go all the way. My head spins slightly, and I feel her suck on my neck between her sentences. I want to so bad, but we can't. Not here. Before I can say anything, I feel her grab my hard rod again, and I feel my tip kiss the entrance of her most sacred place. I place my hand on her lower back, and she dips down slowly. I feel her folds envelop the tip and squeeze it. She wraps her arms around my neck now that the need for a guide is gone. I slowly push her down, and she moans longly as I do so. I move my hand down from her lower back and grab her butt. I bring my other hand down and do the same thing. She buries her face in my nape and moans the lower I push her, reaching deeper and deeper. I groan as the tightness gets better and better. I gently grip her butt and play with it, and after another second, I'm all the way buried. She is trembling slightly, and my head is spinning. Chapter 218, A Social Event 7. I'm as deep as possible, and I feel my tip kissing her womb. I don't move us. I'm too busy trying to catch my breath. Sally is the same way. I can feel her deep breaths brushing against my neck. I run my hands up and down her back as we relish in the pleasure. I bring one of my hands up and run it through her hair. I roll my head towards hers, and I lift her head. She stares into my eyes, and I do the same to her. I bring my lips forward, and she slowly closes her eyes. A second later, our lips connect, and I feel a fluttering feeling in my stomach. I'm still buried deep in her, and I lift her with my free hand ever so slightly, and I drop her. She releases a long moan into my mouth. We part from our kiss, and she relaxes her head in my hand. I lay her head back on my shoulder, and she kisses my neck a couple of times. I bring my hands down to her butt and gently grip them. I lift her and slowly pull out, and as all that's left is the tip. I push her back down just as slow. She releases a long moan during the entire motion, and I feel her squeeze me so damn tight. Her body is trembling a little. I'm being as gentle as I can be. I don't want this to hurt her. She wraps her arms around my neck and snuggles in closer. I slowly lift her again, and I look down, and I'm a little surprised she can fully take me. We have done it before, but it was in the dark. I push her back down with my grip on her butt, and instead of stopping the motion when I reach her deepest parts, I lift her again and continue to slow and pleasurable motion. She releases such sweet sounds, and they all make my head spin. The way she whimpers in pleasure makes me go crazy. I feel her nips poking into me, and they feel really good running across my chest with every up and down movement. I go lower in the tub and lift her. She can no longer rest on my shoulder, and my face is now between her perfectly sized chest. Not too big, and not too small. I stick out my tongue and lick her nipple, and I press her down fast and hilt my rod in her. She throws her head back and releases a cute little squeal. Where did you learn to do all this? You haven't left my side for a second. I'm following my instincts and trying new things I think might be good. I look up at her as I play with one of her nipples. She looks down and smiles. She runs her fingers through my hair. I stop playing with her nipples and bring us to eye level, and I try a new movement. While I'm buried in her, instead of move her up and down, I stay buried and move side to side and in circles. Her eyes flutter close as her eyes roll back. She wraps her arms around my neck, and I start to kiss her. They are normal and gentle kisses. Nothing crazy. She moans over and over into my mouth. I can't hold it anymore. I have the active skill-controlled fun, so I don't have to worry about getting her pregnant. She isn't on her period anymore. There would be blood in the water. I stop kissing her and try to speak between my breaths. I can't hold it anymore. Her eyes crack open, and I see a little bit of drool coming out the side of her mouth. She hugs me as I bury deep in her and release with a groan. She hugs me tighter and shakes as I flood her womb. I hug her and squeeze her butt as I continue to shoot. After a couple of seconds, I stop and take several deep breaths. I lift her off me, and I watch my hot shots leak out of her. She is still trembling a little. I can't help thinking I was a little too rough in that last part. Are you okay? I need to make sure I didn't cross a line and hurt her. She just keeps her eyes buried in my nape and takes deep breaths too. I set her down, and my rod rests between her butt cheeks. I lean my head back and listen to my heartbeat into my ears. This was better than the first time we ever did it. I close my eyes and relax in the afterglow of the event. Sally just stays the way she is, coming down from the high. After a few minutes, she lifts her head and lifts mine to look me in the eyes. I'm fine, you didn't hurt me at all. I want to try something else. She slowly makes her way out of the water and lays down on the clean tile. She waves me over, and I follow. She spread her legs open and shows her pussy to me. I want to be on the bottom this time. Her breaths are deep and make it difficult to speak, but I understood her. I crawl between her legs and line up my rod. She wraps her arms around my neck, and I bury myself in her. She throws her head back and moans loudly. She quickly wraps her legs around me too and brings me in close. There is no space between us. Our bodies are crushing against each other. The only thing I can move independently is my hips. I slowly raise and lower them, going in and out of her. I look at her and see her eyes are slightly rolled back. I lift her head and kiss her. This time I use my tongue to play with hers. Being on top feels so good, being the dominant one. I can already feel another pressure building, and it makes my head dizzy. I feel her hands on my back, and she digs her nails into my shoulder blades. She can't hurt me, but I still feel them. I bury all the way inside and explode. I feel her nails drag pleasurably down my back. I look at her, and her eyes are closed, and her teeth are clenching and unclenching. I lean up as she lets go, and I gently pull out. Due to my insane leaves of endurance, I haven't calmed down yet, but I think she has had enough. We are both covered in sweat now, so I pick her up and carry her with my back into the tub. She opens her eyes after a couple of minutes of soaking. She leans up and runs her hand through her hair as she looks at me. It's too bad we can't do this more often, I nod in agreement. We are so busy traveling and completing quests that these moments are few and far between. She leans on me as we both soak in the bath. I raise my hands out of the water and notice how pruny my hands are getting. We'll need to get out soon. People might already be suspecting things. She brings up a good point. We soak in the magically enhanced tub and get fully clean after our activities. We both get out of the tub and head for the towels. We sit in the changing room as we dry. She sits next to me, and I take this moment to reflect. As a man, I do have desires. They weren't even close to being something important before I met Sally, but now I feel like I'm wasting something great here by not doing something once in a while. The wedding is going to be interesting. It'll be the first one I've ever been to, and the same goes for you. Sally nods her head and sighs slightly. I'll admit, I'd rather not go to the wedding. Amelia took it upon herself to accept my invitation for me, and besides, this is the chance Sally will get to wear the red dress she wants to wear. We sit and talk as we dry, and once fully dry, I equip my armor, and Sally gets dressed in hers. We make our way out of the changing room and head for the room that Amelia and Jackson were in. Once we are at the wedding, news about me will get out, and hopefully, it isn't too soon. Be ready for any questions. Remember, you don't have to answer anything you don't want to. She nods her head as we see the door up ahead. The wedding is tomorrow. Chapter 219, A Social Event 8. I push open the door, and there are many maids and butlers in the room. Amelia turns her head towards us and waves us over. Sally and I both walk over and sit down in one of the several seats. Jackson continues to drink from his teacup, and Amelia looks at me. She looks happy and not stressed anymore from the challenges of the poor. Are you planning to leave right after the wedding? I'd like it if you stuck around longer this time. That only gives me a day with you. Since the wedding is tomorrow, Amelia wants to spend as much time as she can with me. Sally and I have revenge to get. She has been patient enough, and I won't have her wait for any longer after the wedding. She has helped me so much and provided something I didn't know I needed. It's her turn to get what she wants, and what she wants is revenge against the men who made her life hell. We aren't going to be staying for any more time after the wedding. We already have so much to do, and I want to get started on it right away. Amelia looks down, a little disappointed. This is the second time we have seen each other. The only other times we communicate was when we used letters, and I don't check those often enough. It hurt her a lot by not responding or checking, but showing up here and hanging out for today and tomorrow will make up for some of it. What do you think about the new way the Pope for the Church is being selected? I'm sure you're interested to your connection with it. Jackson asks me a question I haven't really put a lot of thought into. I don't really care who becomes Pope. It's not going to stop me from doing what I want. The Church knows better by now than to bother me the way it has, and if it hasn't learned, I'll make sure they do. I see the same head-maid from earlier standing at one of the butler's sides. She has a calm expression, and many are waiting for my response. What the Church does isn't a concern of mine, Jackson. I've never wanted anything to do with them, and that'll never change. More and more things are happening that stem from the church. We all hear a light bang, and I see the head maid quickly recompose herself before Amelia or Jackson turns to see. She must be a huge supporter of the church, and me saying that must have hurt her image of me more. I figured you'd say as much. The concerns of the mortals do not bind you. You are free to do what you wish when you wish. For example, killing a king's court. While Belvia was a horrid place, many are extremely concerned by your actions. Many rulers are worried that the same will happen to them. I only did what I did so I could get what I needed in Belvia. I'm not going to do that anywhere else unless the situation calls for it. The head maid comes with another pot of tea and pours some for Jackson, and Sally also gets a cup. I look at her. Her facial expression hides her feeling well, but I can tell she is mad. While the concerns of the people do not hold me to anything, all the problems in the world are caused because of humans. It's not my job to fix all the mistakes that have been made just because I'm who I am. I see the maid's head turn towards me ever so slightly. She quickly stops and finishes what she's doing. She walks over and stands next to the butler again. Amelia looks at me with sadness, and while I don't like causing her sadness, this needs to be said. She sees me looking at her. I know your stance on things. I want you to keep an open mind. You can save a lot of people if you do one small thing. Sometimes, that one small thing can be impossible for a human. You have gotten so much stronger since the last I saw you. You have more power than any mortal could ever dream. Amelia speaks the truth, but my life is my own. It's not going to be determined by the people who are suffering because of others. I lean back in my chair and sigh. Talking about politics and what I should and shouldn't do is really not something that I like to do. I pinch the bridge of my nose and try to ease the pressure in my nose and head. Everything is going perfectly for me, and my loved ones. Yet, I feel as though a great doom is heading our way. After we're done getting Sally's revenge, I have several tier-up quests to do. I have 2 right now, but by the end of Sally's quest, I'll probably be over level 200. Making the tier-up quest count 3. The Kingdom of Avalon is the next step on the journey after Sally and I are done. So what time is your wedding, Jackson? I'd like to know at what time I need to be prepared. He smiles and explains the wedding starts earlier morning and will end in the late evening. So it's going to be an all-day event. I look over to Sally and smile. Don't wear heels. It's going to be a very long day. She nods her head in agreement. I don't know what Sally thinks about heels, but by our fast, she agreed she must not like them all that much. Jackson stands up and says his goodbyes. It's still morning, and I bet Amelia would love to take us on a tour of the city and all its changes so far. We have all day to do what you want, so make it count. I direct my voice at Amelia, and I watch a huge smile spread across her face. She quickly stands up and barks orders in excitement to the butlers to get a carriage ready. Sally and I sit quietly as she takes her time and does this. I turn my head and look at Sally. I'm sure she is going to buy us things, so be ready to pick things out. Sally gives a nervous chuckle. While I don't mind being spoiled, it really is weird to be spoiled at my age. I wonder what kind of exclusive things Zenith sells. I heard it was a rough capital city before the war broke out for it, and once Jackson took over, things have never been better. She has an excellent memory. I stand up and hold out my hand to her. She grabs it, and I help her up. Amelia turns at the door and waved for us to follow, full of excitement. Your mom is one of the most energetic people I have ever met. It's going to be a long story to explain my real mom to her. That's a conversation and a thought for another time. I pull up my quest regarding Sally as we walk to the carriage. Sally's past. Description: help Sally in her quest for vengeance against all the men that tortured and sexually assaulted her growing up. Help her punish the Elven Kingdom for their ways. Objective 1: when the time comes, Sally will ask you for your direct help in this matter. Completed. Objective 2: once everything is done with your quest involving the Dryads, ask Sally what the first step in her revenge is. Completed. Objective 3, head to the barony of James in the Kingdom of Pleer in progress. Rewards, unknown. Difficulty, legendary. Note, the great difficulty of this quest is the goals that Sally has set in revenge. If they weren't so great, then the difficulty wouldn't be so high. I should ask Jackson or nobles at the wedding if they know anything about Baron James and the Kingdom of Pleer. I have many things coming up, and new information regarding them would be excellent. I'm sure Sally is full of information, but I don't want to ask her anything that would cause memories of pain to surface. I look ahead and see massive doors that are being held open and carriage waiting. Guess it's time to have so fun with Amelia. She has been waiting so long for me to show up and hang out. In the end, I kept my promise to come and see her. That makes me feel better on the inside. We walk up to the carriages and take a seat. Soon they start moving and I look out the window to see we are heading for Zenith. Chapter 220, A Social Event 9. The carriage is moving slowly and without care. It's a calming ride, a stretch of time relaxing with the occasional bump here and there. I look across to the other seat and see Amelia smiling at me. I'm happy that you decided to drop by and visit me. For a while there, I thought you might have forgotten about me. She actually sounds sad as she says that. To her, I'm the son that was taken from her after he was born. The baby she never got to hold, kiss, raise, and care for. What are you planning to bring as a gift? I was planning on giving them a feather from my wings. That isn't the best gift, though. I have an idea, but it's not really that great. I don't know Jackson or his bride's taste. I don't even know her name. He told it to me once. I don't remember, though. He mentioned to me that he was marrying some girl, but I don't remember her name. After I teared up and got my wings, I wanted out of there. Amelia chuckles to herself. That's a hint for you to help me look, Mom. Her eyes go a little wide. I've rarely actually called her Mom. It's a little weird since I already have one, something I don't want to get used to. She nods her head in agreement. This is the first time I'll go shopping with either of my moms. I feel a small dread. I might end up getting embarrassed today, but it's the job of children to let their parents embarrass them from time to time. Jackson gave out a list to all the people who were invited. It was our job to communicate and figure out who is getting what. I didn't get anything from the list. I'm going rogue on this one. Now, you are too. She seems excited to stick it to the rest of the nobles. Hopefully, she has good taste in gifts. I wonder what type of presents are given to a king and his queen? Those gifts probably have price tags I can't reach. While I do have a shop somewhere in this world making gold for me, I'm nowhere near a noble's wealth. Once you reach the count/countess rank, you have more gold that could be called reasonable. Where are we going first? The last time I was in Zenith, there was poverty and disease everywhere. The little I got to see yesterday really showed how much work had been done. Capital cities have things regular cities and towns don't have. Amelia looks out the window to the slowly approaching city. We need to visit the poor districts first. I have things to do there. I spend a lot of my money helping the poor and sick here in Zenith. Despite all the good things Jackson has done, he can't reach everyone. I can see that most don't trust rulers. The poor are the people who get screwed the most, and having a ruler like Jackson is unfamiliar to them. They are used to cruel rulers like Harold. You think you can help some of the sick? I look at her and see how serious she is. I can heal the sick and wounded. No matter how bad or far along they are, I can heal them as long as they are still breathing. The problem is if I do, word will spread that I'm here. I don't want to be found out until the wedding. Amelia looks like she really wants this, though. I'll help whoever needs it. I was hoping only to be discovered at the wedding, but sometimes you have to adjust for another. She smiles brightly and jumps from her seat, and hugs me. Sally is almost bumped off the seat next to me. I hug her back, and I can feel some tears on my neck. She pulls away and dries them. She is a massive sympathizer of the poor and sick since she used to be in their shoes. I honestly thought you'd say no from what you were saying in the mansion. I thought you didn't care about the little people. It warms my heart knowing you will do anything for me, and I'm excited that I get to brag about you. Another privilege parents get to have is bragging about their kids if they come out successful. If Amelia wants to brag about me, I'm not going to stop her. She has that right. Helping the people in Zenith as I did in Belvia will be another experience that will further spread my reputation and face around. It'll have a ripple effect for sure. I've been staring at that weapon you have. I've never seen anything like it before. May I hold it? Amelia probably won't be able to lift it. I take it off my waist and hold it out for her in its sheath. She places her hands on it, and I nod at her. I let go, and she immediately gets sent to the ground. Ouch! Ouch! Get it off! I pick it up for her, and her palms are red from the pressure. I bring up its stat panel and unhide it so she can see the stats. The Witness. Description: a legendary sword that has been around since before recorded history. All the greatest and most influential people have wielded this blade. Empires have risen and fallen to, and for, this blade. It has been held by kings, queens, emperors, and empresses, along with sword saints of unparalleled power and recognition. The Witness is the most powerful of the one-handed swords on Gaia. There is no blade better to wield. The construction of the Witness isn't one known to all. Only a select few know its origins. It was crafted from the same divine metal as Durandal, Excalibur, and Caliban. They are considered siblings since they were made from the same metal ore. New information: the blacksmith that created the Witness is no other than Wayland himself. Out of all the swords he created, the Witness plays a special role. While warriors could wield it, its true power would be revealed when the son of Archangel Michael finally claimed it. More information will be revealed once you tear up. Quality: legendary. Durability: infinite. Damage: 52,000. Unique properties: has a very high chance to dismember limbs instantly. Has a very high chance to cause curse of decomposition. Description: areas attacked by curse of decomposition will rot away till they are cured or the target dies. Will always cause critical hit upon vital points struck. Will always ignore armor and defense ratings. This sword will gain more power every time you tear up. There is no required level to wield this blade. The Witness resonates with your angelic blood. Plus 10,000 focus. A synergy has been created between the dice of Wayland and the Witness. Damage has been raised to 52,000. Divinity Burn, inherent skill. Description: a powerful burn skill that is fueled by divine power. Especially effective against anything non-deity. Damage: 240,000 over time. This skill will active every third swing and burn the target for 12 seconds. I see the expression on her face, and Sally's seeing the true power of the Witness can cause that. I take the stats down and show them my player stats. Slayer, Zirn, LVL.190. EXP, 1/100%. Title: The Son of Archangel Michael, hidden, plus 3 more. Stats: Strength 7095, Endurance 7045, Dexterity 7215, Speed 7240, Focus 19660. Mana Aura Control, 5/100%. Health, 56,560,000,000/56,560,000,000 Mana, 196,600,000,000/196,600,000,000. Stat points: 1000 Armor rating, 500. Inventory. Passive perks. Inheritor of the sword, son of heaven, slayer of evil, holy willow trees, savior, finder of legends, the divine who has legend destined for greatness, dungeon diver and overachiever. Active skills. Heaven's Light LVL.59.325/5900 protected by Heaven LVL.59.225/5900/LVL.774600/130000 parry LVL.5380/5300 double strike n/a King Slayer n/a Raging Machine n/a Winged Glory angelic flight divine pressure exertion divinity pulse controlled fun. Amelia leans back and stares at my screen, showing off my information and skills. You have become so strong. I knew that you were powerful, but not like this. I've never seen health and mana in the billions before. Sally is the first to speak about the incredible sight before them. Explaining how I became this strong is a long story, one of taking advantage of the knowledge of the future. Something that I thought wouldn't be so bad, but now the world is the way it is because of my choices. A statement I really resent, but is nonetheless true.